Welcome to This Explainer, where we are going to objectively investigate one of the most bizarre and honestly, thoroughly scrutinized extraterrestrial claims in American history, the 1973 Pascagoula alien abduction. Instead of relying on hearsay or internet rumors, we're going to break this encounter down using the raw data, secret police tapes, declassified insights, and historical records. We'll let the evidence do the talking as we construct a visual timeline of a night that literally changed two men's lives forever.
To kick things off, we're starting with a hidden police recording from the night of October 11, 1973. Imagine this. Two terrified men, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker, are intentionally left alone by the local sheriff, who secretly leaves a tape recorder running in the interview room. They had absolutely no idea anyone was listening. Yet, instead of dropping a hoax or laughing about a prank, Hickson whispers to his young companion, "It scared me to death too, son. You can't get over it in a lifetime." Which really begs the ultimate question that we'll be exploring today. Are these guys actually telling the truth?
Section 1. A Night on the River. October 11th, 1973. Let's dive right in and establish the facts of what Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker reported experiencing on the banks of the Pascagoula River.
To really wrap our heads around this event, we have to look at the timeline. Hickson, who was 42, and Parker, who was 19, were co-workers. They finished their shift at a local shipyard at 4:30 p.m. and decide to unwind by going fishing at an old, abandoned shipyard nearby. Totally normal evening, right? Well, around 7 p.m., after the sun goes down, the men report hearing this strange, zipping sound. Hickson later said it sounded kind of like steam escaping from a high-pressure pipe. Suddenly, they see these pulsating blue lights and a brightly lit, oval-shaped craft measuring 30 to 40 feet across, so roughly the size of a school bus, hovering just a couple of feet above the ground. By 7:20 p.m., the men claimed they were deposited right back on the riverbank, totally and forever changed.
20 minutes. That's it. The entire reported encounter, from the moment they were allegedly taken inside the craft to the moment they were placed back on the ground, only lasted about 20 minutes. But what makes this case stand out so much in the historical records is the sheer density of information they gathered in that tiny window. The details these men provided about the beings they saw were incredibly specific, internally consistent, and, frankly, deeply unusual compared to the standard science fiction tropes floating around at that time.
Section 2. The Pascagoula Humanoids. Anatomy of the alleged entities. The granular description of the physical entities that allegedly glided out of the blinding light is really where this story takes a wild turn.
According to the source records, these humanoid entities were highly unusual, almost completely robotic in their movements. Picture this. They were about 1.5 meters tall, so roughly 5'4". They featured pale gray, heavily wrinkled skin. And most bizarrely, they appeared unipedal. That means their legs seemed fused together into a single limb. Their arms were unusually long, ending in crab-like claws instead of hands with fingers. They had no discernible neck, absolutely no eyes, just a slit for a mouth, and 3 conical structures sticking out of their heads where ears and a nose would normally be. Oh, and they didn't walk. The men said they simply glided across the ground.
Now, once they were allegedly levitated inside the ship, the whole thing gets even stranger. Hickson said the inside of the room glowed with a light so bright it gave him what he called a bad welding flash in his eyes. He's left entirely paralyzed, literally hovering in midair. And then he claims a mechanical device, which he described as a baseball-sized, floating big eye, emerged directly out of the wall. He stated this thing floated just 6 to 8 inches from his face, systematically moved over his entire paralyzed body like a high-tech scanner, and then just retreated right back into the wall.
Section 3. The Secret Sheriff Tape. Hidden Microphones and Raw Terror. Immediately after the craft allegedly vanishes, these two guys rush to a local telephone box and call the local sheriff's office.
So Sheriff Fred Diamond and Captain Glenn Ryder are sitting there, highly skeptical of this wild tale about crab-clawed aliens, as you'd probably expect. The authorities figure the men will drop the act the second the cops walk out of the room. So they intentionally leave them alone in an interview room equipped with a hidden tape recorder, fully expecting to catch them coordinating a lie. But what the secret tape actually caught was something entirely different.
The tape captured this raw, consistent tear while they thought absolutely no one was listening. Just look at this comparison.
Hickson, a 42-year-old veteran of the Korean War, sounds deeply traumatized but protective of the younger guy. He says, "I just thought I'd been through enough of hell on this earth and now I have to go through something like this." Meanwhile, 19-year-old Parker is in an absolute panic. He tells Hickson he's about to go all to pieces and jokes morbidly that he passed out faster than anyone in medical history. Listen, they aren't discussing a prank here. They are genuinely trying to console one another over a deeply traumatic shared experience.
Section 4. Investigations and polygraph tests. Vetting the unbelievable. This brings us to a crucial point. How did the authorities and the scientific community handle such an unbelievable yet emotionally corroborated story?
Well, the investigation was actually remarkably thorough for its time. It played out like a bizarre puzzle where all the pieces actually fit. Step 1, that secret police recording yielded zero signs of a hoax. Step 2, both men are taken to Mississippi State University where they pass rigorous polygraph or lie detector tests. Step 3, the U.S. Air Force gets involved and they issue a statement confirming they found no evidence of fabrication. And finally, Step 4, this mountain of overwhelming data attracts the attention of renowned UFO researcher Dr. J. Allen Hynek. Now, Dr. Hynek was no amateur. He was the former lead investigator for the Air Force's Project Blue Book and headed the astronomy department at Northwestern University. He originally flew down to Pascagoula as a total skeptic, fully assuming it was a hoax. But after listening to the secret tapes, reviewing the polygraph data, and seeing the men under hypnosis, his mind changed completely. He called the case deeply puzzling and stated that their absolute sincerity made it impossible to dismiss their claims lightly.
And get this, the evidence didn't just stop in 1973. Decades later, independent witnesses finally started coming forward, adding massive weight to the investigation. In 2019, a woman named Maria Blair publicly corroborated the men's account. She claimed she was on the banks of the Pascagoula River on that exact night and watched a flashing blue light hovering over the water, alongside what looked like a literal human body suspended in the air. She said she kept quiet all those years because her husband had initially told her to avoid the public stigma surrounding UFOs.
Section 5. A 50-year legacy, from oddity to investigative journalism. Let's move to the legacy of this event and see how the perception of Parker, Hickson, and the phenomenon itself shifted over 50 years.
As you can see from this breakdown, the media landscape has evolved dramatically. Back in 1973, journalism treated the story as a hard news oddity. It was presented almost like a piece of pulp science fiction. But fast forward to 2023, and the media approach has fundamentally changed. Driven by recent government disclosures and whistleblowers discussing extraterrestrial intelligence, historical cases like Pascagoula are now revisited through very serious, long-form investigative reporting. We treat it with the gravity it deserves.
And honestly, perhaps the most compelling piece of the entire puzzle is the character of the men themselves. Both Charles Hickson, who passed away in 2011, and Calvin Parker, who recently passed in August of 2023, took their accounts to the grave. Despite 50 long years of public scrutiny, intense mockery, and endless questions, they maintained their story perfectly, and they never sought to profit financially from what was, for them, a truly terrifying encounter.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought for our explainer today. If two completely ordinary men passed every polygraph test, demonstrated undeniable raw terror on a secret police tape, never changed their story over 50 years, and never made a dime off of it, what truly happened in the dark on the Pascagoula River? It's a question that challenges our very understanding of the universe, and 50 years later, we are still searching for the answer. Thanks for joining me for this analysis. Keep questioning, and as always, keep looking at the data.